my name is Maresa, and I'm one of your resident writers here at COMA Music Magazine. Today I have the extreme privilege to sit down with not only two great friends, but also people who have become role models for me and for many other people in the alternative electronic music scene. The men likely need no introduction, but just in case you don't recognize them, I'll give you one. Pittsburgh-based Semonik is the vocalist of the electro-industrial act Reinforced. Some years ago, his life was upended when he was struck with stage 2B colorectal cancer, the same diagnosis that tragically took his father's life. Today, Jem has been in remission for over 5 years, but his battle still affects his life every single day. Instead of letting it hold him back, though, Jem has fought back and still works to kick cancer's ass through his unique project, the Electronic Saviors Compilations, Volume 3 of which was released on June 10th, 2014 through Metropolis Records. Also joining us is Chase Dudley of the act Box Warning, fellow mastermind behind bringing the Electronic Saviors Compilations to light. Jem and Chase, I first want to thank you both for taking the time to speak with me today. I know you have a busy promotion schedule coming up. Can you give a brief overview of what the Electronic Saviors Compilations are for those who might be unfamiliar?
What's happening? COMA Magazine.
That's right.
COMA Magazine's in my house.
I'm here, yeah. I am the magazine.
We always knew that.
You can invite them.
Got really drunk and then we just appeared there.
What are they doing here? I don't know what they're doing here. In my basement. Seriously, COMA Magazine, get out of my house.
I'm a COMA.
No, I guess you can stay.
Thank you.
We can talk for a little bit. Electronic Saviors. Well, where should I start on this? We started this project just because I didn't want to witness other people have to go through the same thing that I went through a few years back when I was diagnosed. Essentially, I wanted to try and put a stop to as much suffering as I could through the strength of music, which is why I'm still here. So after being diagnosed and having to go through the treatments, which were brutal, I contacted just everyone that I had ever worked with, whether it was, promoting a show for them, bringing them through town, spinning their tunes, doing release parties, whatever I could do, for a particular artist that I liked. I just started contacting people and saying, hey, I have an idea for something really important. Would you like to be involved? And, this is what's going on. I didn't really... At that point, I think most people knew I was sick. Word traveled pretty fast. So I didn't, it wasn't until, I guess, I really started to take it seriously when I had a show with 16 Volt and Bella Morte. It was the day after I finished my last chemo treatment that summer of 2008, and we had a show lined up. I kept doing shows the whole time. I didn't stop doing anything I was doing through all that stuff. I probably should have in hindsight because...
You looked pretty rough.
Yeah, I was so thin. I lost so much weight. And there's pictures from that show where Eric Powell and Sean Payne and I did motor skills together on stage from 16 Volt. And, I was talking to Eric during sound check. He was having his lunch, and we were just shooting the shit. Can I say shit?
Yes, you can.
Shit. And I said, hey, I have this idea. I would really like to do this. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think something like this could be beneficial? Could it help people? Could it have some sort of an impact? And before, I even pitched the whole thing to him, he was like, I'm in. Whatever you need, I'm in. know. And Eric's been one of my biggest, I don't know, if I'm going to nerd out here for a second, I've been listening to 16 Volt a really, really long time, like since college. And that was a long time ago. And his music has done a lot for me and got me through some really rough patches. But the fact that, you know, I was listening to Full Black Habit a lot during those treatments. I knew I was bringing them to town, and I was listening to a lot of Dark Clan at the time. I was just exposed to them. Dan had sent me, you know, his debut record, and I don't know. It was just he said yes, and so I thought that if Eric said yes, who I love that dude, maybe other people would too. And I think Tom Shear might have been the next person I contacted after that.
And it was sort of like a waterfall.
Yeah, and then
one after the
it was a domino effect, and Ned from Stromkern jumped on board, and Wade from Christ Analog, and Eric from Interface, and it'll just turn into like a name dropping thing if I keep going, but just all these incredible people, that make really great music, came out of the woodwork and were, said, let's do something. And every track that I got, it was just like holding my breath. And then I got really sick after my surgery. And they removed all the intestines and the gallbladder and everything. And they wanted me to do 24 weeks of really intense post-op chemo. And it was double the dosage that I originally went through in the summer. And this was October when I started that. It was like late October. I made it through 9 weeks of the 24 before I had to stop it because pancreatitis almost took me out. And that was, I think, the most brutal pain I've ever felt in my life. And that was just ridiculous. Ended up in the intensive care unit, and they were like, "You were almost dead. We have to, we can't, get a good blood pressure reading on you, and we have to do something." And so my chemo was stopped. My oncologist stopped the chemo. I got my intestines reconnected because I was wearing a bag there at the time. Well, when I came home from the hospital, when I was discharged finally, which was, this was around New Year's of 2009, when I was discharged because I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And there was an email sitting in my inbox from Jared from ChemLab, who I'm sure everybody knows by now is like my favorite band of all time because they were the like really first industrial rock band I ever saw live in a club. And he was like, "Hey, are you still doing that project? Wade told me you were doing something for cancer, and we have a little something for you." So I just like flipped out. I just like, wow, holy shit. And I remember getting that track and just being, this ended up being like the last ChemLab song. He hasn't done another one since. So we got just an amazing amount of talent on that first one. We got the final tracks from a lot of bands who weren't active, or hadn't been active in a while. Fleshfield was on there. I mean, it was an instrumental, but Ian cared enough about the cause to be like, "Hey, here's this track," and I don't know, just wonderful people. And so that's how it started, and that's like basically what the project is that it's trying to raise money to help people not have to go through hurting. Is essentially what I want out of it, And I found this guy, which we've been buddies before the comp was even a thing, and I think I met you when I was sick.
Yeah, you were really sick when I first met you, or met Jim, and you you know, you were just sort of on the cusp. I think actually I met you before you talked to Eric, and I went to a couple of your shows.
You were at System Sin.
Yeah, and then it just sort of, as you needed help sort of getting this together, and it was, you know, first it was like one disc of material, and then it was 2 and 3 and 4, and so.
Oh yeah, I remember when it was going to be one disc.
Right. So
What happened? One disc.
Did it stop?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one disc, and then it was two, and then I was like, we should just do a full-on 4-disc anthology, and you were like, yeah. And remember when I first came over to your place to compile this, and I just had like stacks of CDRs with like one track on each, and I was just like, because every time I got a new track, I burned it to a disc so I could listen to it in my car, and I was just like, I listen to this all the time.
So Jim and I record all of these, like put all these, you know, tracks together in like a CDR is like a 16-bit audio. So we send everything to David to get mastered, and he calls me up and is like, I can't use any of this.
David, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. David Din, the mastermind behind the mastering of the first comp. He just a wonderful man. He from Informatic in DIN 5. He did a just fantastic job. He was lined up for mastering, and so yeah, we sent all the I had to get waves from everybody.
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
So because everyone was just sending in MP3, I was just like, okay. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just like, I'm gonna do this compilation. And so I don't know. It was a learning experience because, you know, before I had no experience in doing this sort of thing at all, and like over the years it's grown by leaps and bounds to what it is now, and it's just like now when I do it, I just have a very strict kind of process of how I do it. It's kind of, remember, like
the first day we sat down to do it, the first one, we had, I don't know, there was like 8 or 9 people. It was kind of like this party, and eventually, because what we were doing was so technical, like getting all the songs together, everyone got bored and was like playing Wii in the other room, and then we kind of realized, you know, if we keep this to like a small, like, you know, fewer people, you know, fewer cooks in the kitchen, it works way better.
We can get a lot more done. Yeah, so, you know, it ended up just being him and I, and, you know, it was just, I look back on it now, and I was just like, you know, we didn't really know what we were doing, and it was such, I don't know, there was like sort of an innocence to it all, I guess, you know, when we first started doing it. But I don't think we've really lost that sort of passion for it, and I think that's why they work, is because we're still the same people.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next is, obviously the first one was really popular and it was a success, so how did that grow into now you have 2 other volumes and potentially volumes in the future, we hope?
Well, it's up to you guys if you buy it. After I did the first one, I was at the Chicago release party, and I was being interviewed outside, and they had mentioned 2 and 3. I was like, I was talking about 2 and 3 way back then, because I had no idea how well this was going to do. No idea. I just knew I wanted to do it, and if it was successful, I would do 2 more.
Go for the trilogy.
Yeah, the you know, the George Lucas style trilogy, but he did 6 movies, and now there's even more. But those other 3 were awful. No, yeah, I guess we'll keep doing them if people still want them.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's continuing to help people and raise money, you know, and if Metropolis, you know, if they're still on board and still want to, you know, participate, we'd love that. You know, they've been fantastic, you know, and definitely at the beginning we couldn't have done it without them at all.
Yeah, they were,
you know, and even now they're just amazing to work with, you know, just, you know, wonderful people.
Well, can you actually elaborate on how this allows you to give back to cancer? I mean, where do your proceeds go, and how much have you already been able to donate?
We are up to,
we've thinking about it. Yeah.
We've donated $33,000 so far, so far. We just got another check, which takes us up to between 39 and 40. And that is basically, we're waiting to see how 3 does, and we're going to do another big, like how we usually do, we do these donation ceremony things. So we'll do one in the spring next year, with and see what we have then. But you know, what I really love is to hit that 50 mark. Gilda's Club, but they're not called Gilda's Club anymore. They are sort of distancing themselves and getting away from that. In fact, if you pre-ordered the premium edition of Electronic Saviors 3, there's a little postcard in there that outlines everything about their name change. They're becoming Our Clubhouse is what their new name is. And so they're sort of their own little foundation. But how we got hooked up with them was we walked in there one night.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to just note that, like, for Electronic Savers and for you, is we've always wanted to find a group that helps people, like, when they need it most, which is like when they're recovering. And we've given to other charities over the years and over the comps, but we really feel that this group is really kind of like meets that mission.
Yeah. Like it's they've just been awesome. We did the research and Chase lived at the time right down the street from a Gilda's Club, which is what they were called, Gilda's Club of Western PA. So their logo's on like all the S3 stuff because they just changed their name after we had everything sent in and getting ready to be pressed up. And so we were trying to figure out what Electronic Saviors 2, where the proceeds were going. You know, my girlfriend at the time did research on several different charities that were chosen by the bands, and Gilda's Club ended up winning out on that, you know, choice. So we walked in there one night. And I was like, you know, I work, you know, a few blocks from there. He lived right there. So I was like, let's just go and check it out and meet them and see what they're about. So we just walked in there one night, and I mean, it was gorgeous. They gave us a grand tour of the place.
Mm-hmm.
They're really cool.
Showed us all about kind of like what they're about in terms of, you know, having this place for people to come and you know, have a support group, and they were just super nice.
Different rooms.
Yeah.
For every like kind of cancer you could be diagnosed with. They had different
age
rooms
groups.
and age groups too. I think the name change might have something to do with the you know, them trying to bring in more young people, and I think which is integral to what we're doing, because obviously, you know, this kind of music you know, appeals to, you know, the younger. Carol Lennon, who's the CEO down there, she was just like, I listen to Neil Diamond and I think this music is pretty cool, and you know, she was super awesome about it, and yeah, they're just wonderful people. So I just kind of wanted to stick with that, you know, and you know, a charity that didn't focus on any kind of animal testing. You know, I had several bands involved with the comps over the years that would be, you know, totally against that, you know, and you know, we might give some of the proceeds to Dr. Medich, who, you know, performed my surgery, and his research team too. So so you know, that's up in the air, but we'll see how this one does. I mean, you know, the 50K mark would be super awesome though.
It would.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like every time we get like numbers, and you know, I always quick to go to Facebook and be like, I can announce that we just raised this many more $1,000. I was like, that's so awesome, you know. So it's doing its job. It's, you know, but I couldn't do it without him, and I couldn't do it without the bands, and I couldn't do it without the label and all of the people that support this. And you would not believe the amount of support and the incredible emails that I get from people who are either battling cancer themselves and listen to this stuff while they're in treatment, and or survivors or friends of or family members of people who have died. You know, I can touch on that later too, because there's some people that I would like to acknowledge that aren't here anymore. So, but please.
Well, we're going to switch gears now. As I mentioned, you have a busy promotion schedule coming up. So what sort of promotion will you be doing, and what sort of events are in place?
Oh my God.
Man, we got a huge list of stuff coming up.
There's so much. Suitcases. Open upstairs and ready to go.
Yeah.
Terminus Festival.
Yep.
That's
Friday.
first on the list. That's Friday.
Yeah.
We leave early Friday morning.
We have 3 days in Calgary doing that.
Yep. Yeah, so we're in Calgary. You know,
Really
thanks
cool.
to Chris, who's putting on the Terminus Festival and hooking us up with a table, and so we can sell them shits. We're gonna have so much stuff to sell. So much.
Like what?
Like what?
Like what?
Electronic Saviors compilations. Do you know what that is?
No, never heard of it.
We have about 35 premium editions
Yep.
left. After that, they're gone. There's so many T-shirts. This T-shirt actually will be for sale there. We have the T-shirt with the artwork on it. We have ES2 shirts. We have ES1 shirts. We have Cancer Face T-shirts. We have this shirt. We have very few of left. That's a Survivor's tee that we did last time. This is the reinforced hoodie.
But,
We have ES3 hoodies. We have my whole Distortion distro and CDs from all the bands on the label. The new Stone Burner. We got that. We got the Boxed Warning record. We got the Shutter Down record. And the premium edition. So,
Well, I know there's a lot of release parties that are planned for different locations around the United States.
Yep.
And are you going to be able to attend some of those, and which ones might you be at?
Well, I can tell you that the San Francisco party just happened the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I was not there. Tom Shear played, Assemblage 23. Mechanical Vein, Keith, he's the one that put on the event. He was fantastic. And they had a really successful event. And Toby from HexRX, Kevorkian Death Cycle, he hosted the Phoenix one. So those two already happened, and they were both successes. So thank you guys for doing that. Next is Terminus, and then the Boise, Idaho one is coming up. We won't be at that one. Then we go out.
Yeah, we go
Yeah,
out.
we're with both of our respective bands. We're going out and playing. We're doing the Detroit one in July. What's that? July 17th. July 18th. We're in Chicago.
And then
There's a ton of other bands playing that. I've
like eight bands.
Yeah, that's Dave Shock's fault.
Yeah.
And with the Madison one. The Madison
awesome.
one I'm really looking forward to, because that one I've never played Madison before, and it's an inferno, and Sensuous Enemy is playing, and Dark Clan is playing, and Null Device is playing, and Ampsych, which are I love all those bands and everyone that's in those bands. Like, all those guys are dear friends of mine, and I love them, and I've not seen them in such a long time. It's been too long since I've seen any of those guys, so. And I get to ask Dan Clark what's up with his album.
Yeah.
Because we're putting that out.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Yep. And he just has to finish it.
Yes.
That Dan Clark.
Well, let's get into some of the details of Volume 3, which is called Remission. With 4 regular edition CDs and 2 additional premium edition discs, you have once again brought together a massive number of bands from across the globe. So what were some of the issues that you faced in bringing Volume 3 to life, and how did you overcome them?
There were a lot of pitfalls
Well,
this time around.
Yeah, it's weird. So we've learned, every time is a learning experience, and each time we kind of learn new things about different aspects of the project. But I think, honestly, getting the bands together was not the hard part this time.
No,
That
was the hard part about 2 either, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first comp had been such a success that the second one expanded into 6 discs and had, a premium edition of 8. But yeah. So getting the bands this time wasn't that much of a challenge. It's still kind of tough, you know. But we do have new people involved every time. We have some of the bands come back from one that weren't on two. We had some of the bands come back from two that weren't on one. We have some bands that were on all three. Steve Archer. But
Multiple times on.
multiple times on multiple tracks. He pulled a Dan Clark on this one. But yeah, so that part of it, it was more on the technical end of things. That we had some speed bumps and some artwork things that had to be worked out with Jeff and Sam, but which, you know, again, I have to mention Jeff and Sam's just amazing work. Yeah. Jeff Conference, Sam Johnson. Jeff did the pencils and the inks for the art, and Sam did the layout and the colors. I can't imagine a better art team really. To be on this. I mean, it was their first, you know, piece, but those two should be doing Comic Cons, and you know, they need to be out there and just way underrated for what they do.
Well, speaking of the artists, what are you going for in terms of the aesthetic with this kind of artwork that you are carrying through each of the compilations in a different way?
I already thought about the artwork for the fourth one. I'll get that in a minute. For the the comps themselves, I've been telling my own story, and I feel like after I did the first one, it was about me getting diagnosed and getting sick, sort of convalescing from that, and trying to get on with my life of what life was going to be after my body was altered forever. You know what, though? I tell people this, I would give it all up. I would give up all these comps and all the work and all of the, you know, everything involved with these things if I could just have those parts of my body back. And I can't. You know, but I would give it all up in a second, because life is a lot different and it's a lot harder now. But in terms of the artwork, the first one told the story of that. And the second one, I was worried about the cancer coming back, of course. And I still am. You know, that's just something I'll always have to deal with. So that's what 2 was about, hence the word recurrence. But 3, you know, was about being told that you're good to go. And about not having to worry anymore about the doc saying you're fine, you're in remission. So that's what 3 was. And so I feel like with 3 completed, my story is told, but I'm not done telling the stories of other people. And so eventually with 4, which I'd like to call Retaliation, just to keep in spirit with the REs.
The alliteration of everything.
You know, and I would really like to have on the front, and color scheme wise, we'll go with purple.
Yeah.
With the next one, you know, what's weird is that it's started off blue, and it's actually different eras of the day. You know, blue would be like early morning, and then yellow is like noon, 3 p.m., and then red is like sundown, and purple would be like evening. You know, by the time we get to 5, we'll do a black one, and then, you know, maybe a green. I don't know, but that was not intentional at all. It just happened that way, which is weird. But
I think what's cool about the artwork is everyone sees something different in it.
Yeah.
And we get emails and letters all the time saying, you know, is this what you guys are going for? Or, you know, I see this. But
it's open to whoever, you know, wants to interpret it. But for the 4th one, it was what I'd really like to do is have our boy here, who's been on every cover, and just like sort of leading an army. You know, have him like, you know, sort of point and have like the staff like in his hand, like almost like superhero like, and just like pointing, you know, ordering his troops into battle or something like that. And if anyone could pull that off, Jeff could pull it off, because he's doing those sketch cards for Marvel right now. But yeah, he does that. So yeah, just a great guy. But
We're definitely going to look forward to that.
they've already signed on. Well, nothing in ink, but I never have anything in ink with those two. But they've already said yes to being on, for as long as they, that we do them. I've had a number of people say, as long as you do them, I want to be a part of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, what are the guidelines that the musicians must follow to be considered for inclusion?
They have to be bald. No, they
We're really loose on our guidelines.
Yeah, we really don't.
Honestly,
there's like 4 or 5 of them that we post on the website.
Yeah.
Right?
And most of it, it's like keep to the technical stuff that we need, because we've learned that. And then I don't think, there's maybe been over the years like 1 or 2 tracks that have been like offensive that we couldn't, but that's not really a
like
problem.
just like not appropriate
Right.
for what we're doing, and
But for the most part,
no problems.
Yeah.
We try to keep them to like 4.5 minutes, but we really didn't set a time.
no.
line
Because
for-
you get some great tracks that are like 6 minutes long, and then you get some wonderful tracks that are like 2 minutes long. So you learn to just include for that.
we spent one evening, putting this together.
It was
It was in
November.
December. It was
Yeah.
before Christmas time, and I was just like, "You want to come over and see what we can get done tonight?" And we, I had already had all the
We've
tracks.
been listening to them for weeks, I think.
And yeah, I was just like, hey, we got all of them. I was like, here, this is what we're dealing with. I was like, let's do it, and we ended up getting everything. We still had a couple tracks coming in, or like that we were waiting on, but we had bands slotted in that were like, I just need a couple more days. I'm mixing down now.
Our track's like 3:35.
And I was like, can you get me a time on it so we know where to slot it in at?
So does it have to be like a signed artist, or can anybody who makes a decent
Nope.
track
Not
get
at all.
on?
Nope. No, that has nothing to do with anything. Obviously, and I said this in another interview I was doing, we have to make sure it sells.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure it's a quality product, and we can't just throw a million unsigned bands on. We have to know what bands are going to give us tracks that are going to fit with what we're doing, and make sure that they're the right bands, and have the right kind of, I guess, subject matter.
Yeah, I think there's key tracks on every disc that are so with the theme of what's going on, and then you work in other tracks that are less.
Yeah, that have nothing to do with it, and that's fine,
Mhm.
because these people donated their time and energy to do this. I want to mention 2 tracks in particular, okay? And one track is by a band called Modern Weapons, and those guys, that's Adam from Imperative Reaction. He used to be in Imperative. That's how I met him. He was guitarist, and his track is just incredible. They're not on a label, to my knowledge. Maybe they are now. Maybe they got snagged.
Maybe.
I noticed that after we put this one out, which had a bunch of bands that weren't signed. They're signed now. Like I had Silent Auction, Sonic Foundry.
Mhm.
A number of those bands are now on a label. Sensuous Enemy.
I think that's another thing that we always talk about, is we hope that even if people aren't signed and they submit and they get on, that they continue to make awesome music.
Yeah, it'll give some visibility to them.
Yeah.
Maybe a label will be like, hey, we have our own label. Distortion's a label now, and we've thought about snagging a few of them or something. This track is really good. Maybe we should talk to them. But no, it's so Modern Weapons was one that really impressed us. Berlin Babylon, we thought was an unsigned act, but then I found out that Torben from Infacted had them, and we didn't even know. I said to him, I was like, did you know that Torben snagged those guys? And we didn't even know about it, and their side project, the Detroit Diesel, and we had already planned on, we had that track accepted and slotted in. We were like, that Berlin Babylon is a really good song.
The first few days, though, we had that track because the way that it was worded, and I just had it in my car. It just showed up as Berlin. I was like, I can't believe we got a Berlin track.
Yeah, it's not Berlin. But yeah, I mean, we still have some other bands on there that don't have deals. But we just have to be smart about it. And that's, primarily what the premium edition is. Just like, there are bands on there that blew us away. They were just so good, But and unfortunately, there were several bands that were great that we didn't get a chance to put on because we have limited room, and that just always happens,
Well, that leads me to the next couple of questions, actually. First of all, how many submissions do you guys generally get for each comp?
Not as many as you would think.
Yeah,
It's because some bands I actively go after. And I don't want, and this is for the record, I don't want any bands to think because I don't personally ask them that they can't submit. Because there were some bands that were like, why didn't you ask me? I'm like, I didn't think that I needed to, You can just submit. That's what it's about, just submit, man. Anytime I'm doing one of these, just everyone, throw me some tracks, whatever. But that's, don't wait on me to ask you, because I might not get there, and it's a matter of just we want to have as many as possible, and what I think for 2
we had so many for 2 that we ended up working nights, like multiple nights on compiling it.
Yeah, the 2 was a monster.
And we asked Metro for 2 extra discs, kind of as a joke.
Well,
it was like
we were like, we just have so much awesome stuff that maybe they would let us do 6 discs. Let's ask them. They were like, yeah, do it. So I think the size of 2 might have, depressed sales a little bit. So, 2 is still in print. I don't think it's going to be in print forever. I think by the time we get to 4, it'll be gone. What did we end up with, like 175?
Yeah.
For the record now, we're at over 230 total bands in the project that have been involved. Total. It's over 230 at this point.
And this one we hit an even 100.
Yeah, even 100 bands.
That were accepted. There was others we couldn't just...
Yeah, we did, we just didn't have the room. Yeah. But, I'm saying around, the number is around 150.
Well, how do you choose which tracks then from all of the submissions that you actually include? I mean, we know that each volume has sort of an overall theme. This one is Remission. So do you consciously choose tracks that you feel go with that theme, or do you choose them based on a particular sound?
Not at all. It's we do have a certain, we like to put all the styles of and derivatives of industrial on this comp. We don't just want it to be an EPM comp. We don't want it to be just an industrial rock comp. We want everybody who wants to submit in their various styles. Noise.
I think
ambient.
Putting the track when we put all we have all those different styles and genres. Putting them all together is like we always try to disrupt the listener a little bit, because you don't want to fall into just sort of trance mode.
Yeah.
So we like to put 2 tracks of contrast.
It ends up being a great flow like that. I had someone tell me today, oh, I love ES3. It's all we've been listening to. And I'm like, well, just the general opinion. I was like, how does it stack up to the other 2? And they were like, it's our favorite. So if we can keep topping ourselves, then so much the better. But it's going to get harder to keep making these amazing. I love all 3 of them, but I do think that 3 is the best one. And I think of one particular instance on 2 where we have Blue Tangle right next to Unit 187, and I was like, you're never going to have a compilation that has the 2 of those bands right next to each other, ever. This is it. This is the only one that's ever going to do that. no one's ever gonna put those two bands next to each other. I'm like, seriously, Unit 187, Blue Tango. No, we have some odd combos on this. We have Modern Weapons right next to Null Device, I think. Yeah.
And then we've got it's on disc 1 is what's
We have
Dan's favorite, the Deathline
Oh,
International.
the Deathline International track.
It's right after.
That's after 16 volt. No, 16 volts 1.
Storm Current.
Storm Currents 2, and then
Deathline.
Deathlines 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 4 is Dark Clan, and then right after Dark Clan, which is this really somber tune, we have this band from Norway called Hell Sector, and this dude is just a maniac. He's crazy. It's such a good, like, real hard-hitting EBM track, and then the guitars kicked in, like, death metal vocals, and I'm just like, right after Dan Clark's track, and I'm just like, that's fucking awesome.
Well, in line with that, I'm going to throw out a question submitted to me by David Schock, whom you know quite well through WT2 Records.
I don't know that guy.
He points out that each separate disc in the volume is titled with its own theme. So you have your overall theme for the comp, and then you have a theme for each disc, such as Elation or Cured. So how do you choose which tracks go on each disc, and how do you determine that order of what the discs are going to go as?
I would say that was most important on the first volume.
Yeah.
On this one, it's not so much because we wanted to celebrate with this third one. It's about being uplifting. So we chose words that were synonymous with happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And
The first one had a sort of like a smaller story arc within it, and this one was just like you said.
this one is just like a total celebration, an all-out party, you know. So that's pretty much what it is. But to sort of get to Dave's, question, that first one, it was tough to get the flow. And back to your previous question, yeah, we do accept, we have a certain amount of slots for guitar tracks, a certain amount of slots for EDM tracks, a certain amount of slots for noise tracks, So we just try to balance it as best we can, and if we feel like the subject matter fits within a particular, like the third one, it really didn't matter because it was all celebration, but the second one, it took a little bit more of an importance to throw whatever subject matter, like the Gothsicles track on the first one. Where are you going to put a track like that? I had to basically go the literal route, because it was Jim, let me know when you can drink again. And I'm like, okay, well, that has to go on the Diagnosis one, I think, because, that track is implying that I'm still not back on my feet, But, so that's where we put that. It depends on lyrical, whoever, whatever band's singing about. But if we get an instrumental track, this guy, he doesn't like to sing, apparently. Look, he's getting all embarrassed. So I have to go with, I'll have to ask, whoever's writing that track, like, what were you thinking when you wrote this? Like, what was going through your head? What are you feeling when you're writing this? So I kind of have to go that way. Well, okay, well, that would go here then.
We end up, we debate about it for a while.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's healthy to get the.
Yeah, he questions, my decisions, which is healthy. It's a healthy relationship. Except when he beats me. He beats me.
This is going to be broadcast over the internet.
Whatever.
Right?
Screw you, internet.
So through these comps, you've given a voice not only to the musicians included, but also to a variety of other people, myself included, through the publication of testimonials in the booklet. How did this idea come about?
The testimonial thing? I just want people to say what they feel. Really, I want to know what their thoughts are. Because I don't feel like, especially in this scene, that people are not ever really vocal about when something's awesome. Everyone's vocal when things are not awesome. And screw that. I'm sorry, but it needs more people talking positively about how things are, you know, and I think we did a good thing, and I want people to talk about it, and you know, so that's why I asked the artists, how do you feel? How do you feel about being involved with this? You know, how do you feel about your relationship to the compilation? You know, how did we meet? You know, how did you know?
Or just how you know, for the cause, like how do you, what's your relationship with cancer?
Yeah, people are
How do you
telling
feel
their
about
own
it,
stories, and that's what is awesome about this. People will tell, you know, and I mentioned earlier, I'll mention Chris Saunders was a friend of mine who passed away, and you know, a dedication and ES2 to him, and unfortunately after ES1 came out, you know, that was a big deal in their house. His girlfriend contacted me after that, and it was extremely touching. This was like weeks before we had ES2 ready to go, and he passed away. And I am deeply touched that these people feel this way. She got, you know, the Gear Cross tattooed on her. I remember, you know, her, you know, sending me a picture on Facebook of that. But just this past spring, I lost a friend, Jean-Paul, Ben from Ludovico Technique. Was a good buddy of his, and I had just met him, you know, a few months ago. Chase had a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
You know, Dan Souza, you know, another buddy of ours, but came to the Knock Tomorrow Ludovico show and got to meet Ben and hang out. And this was like during his treatment, and he came to Comedy Christ to see me open that show, and he ended up passing away.
We did make him.
Oh yeah.
We did make him. We pressed the, you know, before a pre-release.
We knew that we knew he wasn't gonna make it in time for the third comp to see the light of day. Like, he was after Combi played. Like, we had a separate space at the merch table set up for him so he could enjoy the show. And you know, after that, Dan was closest to him at this point, and you know, Dan would fill me in on it and how he was doing, and then he would be like, you know, he's in hospice, and you know, it just got worse after the Comedy show. But at that show, we gave him all 6 discs. That we gave him master copies, because I was like, you know, here, dude, enjoy this. You know, if you know, because he told me I'm not going to be around. So I was like, well, we'll make something happen for you. I'd rather you hear this rather than not. You know, so you can experience that and take it with you. You know, so that's the way I kind of feel about that. So, but back to the testimonial thing. Yeah, I would just rather people share their own experiences and talk about what it means to them. And I need that to be shown. I need people to read that stuff, because I think it's cool that you buy something like this, and is why I put so much emphasis on that kind of packaging, is that you're getting more than just music. You're getting like a book, almost like you're buying a book, and you're opening it up and you're putting the music in, and then you have like all this stuff to read, you know, while you're listening to it, you know. So I would rather, you know, because it's filled with humor, and it's filled with, you know, really touching stuff, and you know, I make sure I write an essay in every one just to, you know, let people know where I'm at, you know, what I'm thinking, what's going on. I want to be hands-on with this stuff, and I want to be able to reach out to as many people as I can. And, yeah, I'm busy, but who isn't? So I tell people all the time, I was like, write me. I want to hear from you. What do you think?
Well, what are the guidelines for submitting a testimonial, and how do you choose which ones to include? Because I'm sure you get more than you can include.
Not really. Not really. We've had people say, oh, yeah, we'll write something, and we never get anything. I have to kind of stay on top of people as much as I can about it. I think we included all but 2 this last time, because ultimately it's up to Jeff and Sam who are doing the design. So I'm like, here's all the testimonials, fit whatever ones you can, and let me know what you can't fit, and we'll make other arrangements, whether featuring them on the website or in the digital booklet. By the way, Sam fit everybody's. She was like, I have unlimited room when I do that, so everybody's can be in there. Yours was in the premium edition.
Yes, mine.
So, and yours was like a novel.
Yes. Did I mention I'm a writer?
So Jim calls me one day. He's like, "We gotta put Reese's testimony in the premium," and I'm like, "No, there's no room."
I'm like, it has to go in there. Make it happen.
But yeah, I always learn there's always more room. Like, always figure it out.
He comes back with, I got her testimonial on the whole side of the one panel. And I'm like, I told you could do it. And who else was in there? Jeff Mangum's testimonial as well. I try to make everybody a team player. And so, because that's basically what it is. It's everybody. We're all against this together. So as many as are submitted, I try to get them in there. And it's the genius of Jeff and Sam, and in this case Chase, with the premium, making it work like that. So.
Well, where can someone purchase the compilation and any of the merchandise that's related to it?
www.distortionprod.com.
And then you have to click the other
And then you got to click the store link. We got a store through our website.
So the store is like it's a web store. It's going to change in the future. We're going to make it better.
It's in the baby stages right now.
We've been doing this on a low overhead budget because we want to donate as much as we can each year. Right. And so things are a little bit duct tape and chewing gum, but we're going to actually
paper clips,
binder clips. But
that's what it is. It's DIY.
Going forward, we have a plan actually to streamline everything. So
yeah, but our premium edition sold amazingly well through there, and it's set up through PayPal. So we have the Stone Burner album through there, both reinforced records. The box warning, my whole distro that I bring to shows and sell and have merch table. We have a lot of those titles up there. The ones that I'm on real low quantity on aren't up there. But, like I'll say to him, I only have like one copy of this left, take it down. But we try to, get as much. We got all the shirts.
Yeah, multiple
we got the poster pack. Yeah. We have, which is all 3 11x17 prints for $15. She's pointing to the. Everything's up there. Everything Electronic Saviors related. We don't have the wristband up there.
No, because we kind of give those.
Yeah, those are important for on the road. Yeah. When we're going to be on the road, because at this point, after the premium editions, we're going to be really low on bumper stickers. We're not going to have any of those left pretty soon. The postcards are almost gone. I'm going to send whatever's left. I'm going to send the release parties for the postcards. And the Gildas Club, our clubhouse card that came in the premium, like those are only for the premium. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have those anywhere else. and because not many of those are made. So essentially, yeah, everything is available through the Distortion store for the premium.
Or you can go
metropolismailorder.com.
Yep. Amazon.
Amazon, every online place. It's available digitally everywhere.
Microsoft Music Store, iTunes.
BestBuy.com.
Yep.
Barnes and Nobles.
Yes.
Yep.
My album's on Barnes and Noble. I was like really excited because it was
Yeah.
and box story. I know it's just an alphabetical thing, but I was like, holy crap!
Holy crap! My album's available from Best Buy. What? But nobody's buying it.
That means people go buy Box Warning.
Go buy Box Warning CDs.
Well,
Wah, wah. Play more shows.
I know.
so Jim, you told us about a couple of tracks that really stood out for you on this compilation. Chase, what about you? Do you have any meaningful tracks or a favorite track on this album or volume?
I was really adamant about getting the 16-volt track as track 1, disc 1, because
Yes.
it comes from his full Black Habit album, and as soon as I heard it, just fell in love with it, and that was my champion. There's some other, incredible tracks throughout the.
Do you like the Berlin Babylon a lot?
Yeah, I like it.
We gotta have the Berlin. I was like, I don't know who they are.
It's so good though.
I was like, they don't have a deal, but then they do have a deal. Torben. How about I have a question? How do I get a COMA magazine shirt?
I actually have no idea.
Because I need a thing for my oil in my car.
Thanks.
No, I'm kidding.
But you know what? I did bring you a sticker, and I brought one for you too.
Oh, we love COMA.
Yeah.
We're just
And
teasing.
COMA loves you.
We're just teasing. You know what? Bear loves COMA.
So, Chase, you said that you wanted to mention another band.
Yeah, so the Empty Stretcher's been on the premium edition over the last two editions.
Yeah, he was on 2 and 3.
And but yeah, so no, I just wanted to give a shout out because I hope they get signed or
Jesse Thumb, he's
You know.
based in Philadelphia. I met him through my buddy John from Andraculoid, who I was on the DSBP label with. And if you're ever seeing this video, write another album, damn you, or at least a track for part 4.
Anybody else?
But did I want to say write a track for me?
Yeah.
That's like
Who's
Soldier's
a
territory.
wish list band that we have not gotten yet? KMFDM,
Yep.
Skinny Puppy, Nitzareb.
Yep.
Those are 3 that I don't know. I don't know if they even know about this project.
Well, I couldn't. I was gonna just go for I would love if 9 Inch Nails would like.
Yes, we
God.
love you, Chase. We love you.
I hate you.
Do you hear that, Trent Reznor? Get on it.
I hate you.
Well, I'm gonna wind it down here, and
Maybe we weren't done with that question.
I think if you continue to be angry about it, he's not gonna do it.
Who says I'm angry?
I have a personal bias
I'm a
here.
very
so-
happy, well-adjusted man. No, I just want to. Come on, we got 2 more wish list
Oh yeah,
guys.
yeah, we got.
Who haven't we had? Front 242 would be really Frontline Assembly. That's probably my number 1. We have dudes from that band. We have Left Spine Down.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, help us out here. Tell Bill Lieb to give us a track. Totally put them on the spot just then.
Yeah.
Cane Delay.
I'm trying to think of others.
No, but yeah, Front 242, Frontline.
Some other smaller bands I'd love if Encephalon would get
Encephalon, yeah.
really good.
Smaller bands, and yeah, Encephalon. Necro Facility,
Mhm.
which was my favorite record of 2011. I thought that record was just, Wintermute was unbelievable. But hearing a lot about Three Teeth, we're going to see them in a couple days. So having them on 4 would be sweet.
Here's another totally instrumental guy that you'll frustrate you with. Satil, I think I'm saying
Saltillo.
Satilo would be
How
awesome.
do you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, any of those artifact bands. We're gonna see those dudes in a couple of days.
So,
We'll all be drunk. We will be. I don't know about them. We will be. So we can badger them for tracks for the next one. No, this time who do we have? We got Blank. We have Blank this time.
oh yeah, Blanks.
Yeah, Blank's pretty awesome. I would love to get Cockshore, which is Jason Novak and Chris Connolly's new project from which they just signed a deal with Metropolis. I have the many bands that have been on this thing. I can't ask for anything more. I feel like I'm being, in all seriousness, I would be pushing it if I asked for anything more than what I have, because
We already get
these guys,
such incredible.
I have
stuff.
so many of my favorite bands from all time, of my whole life, on these things, writing songs for me, and in ChemLab's case, name their track after me. He's the one that gave me my stage name, Jimmy Semtex. It's like, all right, I like that. That's cool. But that's Jared for you. I love that guy. But 16 volt, we got Christ Analog, who haven't done anything. Wade. By the way, Wade Allen, I love you. He mastered this third one and did an unbelievable job. And that guy is just all heart, and really means a lot to me that he did this one, because I think he did just a splendid job. Love that guy, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. And so yeah, I mean, to really ask for anything more than what we've gotten, 230 bands is pretty amazing. So okay, curveball Dave Shock question.
All right, finally. Like I said, Dave Shock had a question and gave me some ideas as to what he thinks your answer is going to be, and I'm supposed to report back to him. He wants to know...
Do I have more CDs than him? Is that it?
I'm sure that you would probably win.
I don't think so.
Sorry, Dave.
Dave's a wacky dude.
He wants to know, after all that he knows about you, what are your top 5 favorite bands? He doesn't know.
He doesn't know that?
He has ideas,
Dave,
but he
come
doesn't
on,
know.
please. Top 5 favorite bands of all time. ChemLab's number 1. Number 2 is probably 16 volt. Number 3 is probably Hocico. Acumen Nation is up there. Frontline Assembly, I think that would probably, is that 5?
That's 5.
Yeah, I think
and
that's,
I think he only got one of them right.
that's probably it. Who did he guess? What did he guess?
Oh,
Just
goodness,
curious.
you're going to put me on the spot because now I don't remember. I know he said 16 volt.
Yeah.
I think he said Ampsych.
Ampsych. I love those dudes, but sorry, Tony.
And he said someone else, but I don't remember who it is. So I have taken up so much of your time, and I just want to thank you both again so much for sitting down. I love you both. You're amazing friends, but you're also amazing people for the scene, and there's so many people that need this, and you know that, and that's why you keep doing it, and I want to say thank you on their behalf too. Is there anything else that you want to say to any of your fans while you're still here on camera?
Thank you so much.
Thanks for supporting this
Yeah.
and buying this and helping us
submitting
help
music and everything.
to all of the bands, really. Again, I can't stress enough how much I appreciate this, and to Wade and David for mastering
Metropolis.
the comps, and to Metropolis for believing in us, and to Dave Heckman for taking the risk on this. And really, it's been one hell of a ride so far, and I cannot really convey how much I appreciate it without breaking down. So to all the bands that were ever involved, and to the bands that want to be involved, reach out. That's all it takes, really. And just, you know, if you want to be a part of it, you know, all I ask is that you really want to make a difference, and you're not just doing this for, you know, exposure of your band. And you know, I just want you to be, you know, genuine about it. And so to all the bands, thank you for doing it. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
See you on the road.
And thanks to COMA Magazine for doing the interview.
Yeah, I guess we got to thank you.
I am sitting right here after all.
Thank you, Maresa. Yay!
All right, you can cut it. COMA fans, thanks for tuning in to learn more about this incredible cause. If you visit www.distortionprod.com, that's distortionprod.com, you can go out, do your part to kick cancer's ass, all by means of your favorite artists.